Welcome back, witches. Happy Sunday. Usually I post on Fridays when I have these episodes that are not podcast episodes, but lately Fridays just have been a struggle for me. They have not been working out, so maybe Sunday will be better, but I am sitting down to film this on the same day that it is going to get posted. And today I wanted to chat about beginner must-haves for witchcraft. Like I mentioned in previous episodes, I have gone sort of backwards and felt a little disconnect with my practice and kind of wanted to start over from the beginning and figure out which way I wanted to go with my witchcraft and embark on sort of a new journey and just start at the beginning and work my way up to where I was before, but probably with different practices and different witchy things that I'm focusing on. And always in the background of these videos is my bookshelf here, and it's got a lot of little witchy tidbits on it, and I usually am showing different spells, my desk, my storage area over here. So I wanted to go over sort of the beginner basics and what I would have if I were completely starting from scratch. Obviously, I did not just go ahead and throw out my entire collection. I'm going to use what I have, work through what I have, and then figure out as my path progresses what I still want to keep and hold on to and what I want to let go of. So I thought it would be a good time to go back to the beginner basics and figure out what I would consider a must-have as a beginner witch and what I would repurchase if I didn't already have it. But of course, the very first thing that I want to mention and talk about, because I talk about this on the podcast all the time, is that you actually don't need anything to be a witch. It is all about you and your energy, your intention. So there's no physical items that I would consider necessary, a must-have, a requirement. You really can dive in and start the practice with just yourself and your mind, your energy, and really not have to spend the money on any tools that you don't want to. And in fact, that is always where I recommend starting, because you can spend a lot of money on collections and witchcraft items, and if you try to procure everything that was behind me or that you see in other witches videos, that would take you a long time and a lot of money. And you have to know that people like myself who've been practicing for a while, we've been gathering things for a while. So it's not like I went out and got all of these things brand new. As soon as I started out, it was really about growing this collection over time. So I very much recommend living with where you're at and slowly incorporating any physical items when you think that they would actually benefit your practice rather than just cluttering it up. And I know a lot of beginner witches are scared of that concept of just living with where you're at, because all of the fun stuff is so beautiful, it looks so great online, and when witches are sharing their practice online, there's usually a big altar, a lot of physical items involved, and it makes you want those things. I absolutely understand that. But this really is an instance of where it's best to grow slowly. But with that said, let's jump into some things that I think would actually be very useful. And my top two, they're kind of tied for first place, is first of all, a place to record your practice, and second of all is a dedicated method of study. I think that it is very important to have a method of recording your practice and your witchcraft, because there is no way for you to sort of grow and advance and look back on what you've done if you don't have a place to document that. A lot of witches will have that in a paper format called a grimoire or a book of shadows, and I will have more on that next week of starting a brand new one and the difference between the two terms. But it is just a journal of tracking your practice and writing down your thoughts, your divinations, your spell work, dreams, what the moon cycle was, just a place of recording all of those different things, because it's invaluable information to be able to look back on. And especially if you need to go back and undo a spell or figure out why a spell didn't manifest in the way that you wanted it to, you're not going to know that exact information unless you had written it down, because you are just not going to remember everything. It's not possible. I think we are all aware of that we think of these things that we want to put on our to-do list, and if we don't actually commit that to paper someplace, we don't remember it. So it's really important to write all of those things down. And I say write and I say paper because that is my preferred method, but you can also keep this digitally. I do also keep a digital grimoire. There's a Notion template. If you are a patron, you have access to that. If you have not joined Patreon yet, that is $5 a month, and the digital Notion template for a grimoire is in there, and it has so many different pages of being able to track important information, and it has a spell tracker page as well. So that is $5 a month, and you can join, and that digital grimoire is yours to keep. So you can absolutely keep things online. You can use apps that have passwords if you want to keep that protected. There are a lot of different means of tracking your practice. Writing things down in a standard book with worn pages that looks very witchy is not the only way to do things. And like I said, the thing that goes along with the grimoire that I think are the two most important aspects is to have a preferred method of study. And this could be across the board, anything. I shared books in my last video because that is my preferred method of study, but you just need some sort of way to study and gather new information. I love reading books, checking books out at the library. I love owning books. I was an English major. It's always the subject that I excelled in. So I love reading. For you, that might be YouTube videos like you're watching right now. It might be podcasts, websites, or it might be joining a coven or finding a mentor and learning in person from somebody. Again, there is no right or wrong method of that because everybody learns differently. But if you're like me and you prefer the book method, then I highly recommend getting a library card and a Kindle Unlimited account because there are so many great witchcraft books that are available on Kindle Unlimited. And there are a ton of great witch books that are available as ebooks as well. So even if your library does not have that, if they have it as an ebook option through Overdrive or Libby, that would be a great option as well for reading more books and expanding your knowledge base that way. A couple of other quick things that I think would be great to acquire as a beginner. First of all, some sort of cleansing option. You can absolutely do energetic cleansing to cleanse yourself and your altar space wherever you are going to be doing your witchy spells and witchy work. But there are also physical items that you can have that a lot of witches find helpful. Incense is a very popular option, and using the incense smoke or a smoke bundle of herbs to clear a space or cleanse yourself. Crystals are often popular. Clear quartz is a great one for that, as well as bells, or even just water. Water is a great cleanser. But it's always ideal to start with a clean base. You never know what energies are hanging around on you or on your space, and if you would really like to focus your intention and that spell work, it's important to start with a blank slate. So those cleansing items can be really helpful for that. I also find having a divination tool to be important as a beginner. There's tons of divination tools. Pendulums are very popular, spirit boards, tarot, oracle cards, crystal balls. There's so many methods of divination, but any one of those can be used to check in with yourself, get to know yourself better, your subconscious. It can help you in spell work because it can help you figure out what the ingredients that you're adding, if you're adding enough of them, if they're the proper ingredients. You can ask yes or no questions. You can use candles and flames for divination to read how your spell is going to manifest, when it's going to manifest, if it's working, if it's not working. You can get all of those answers from divination. And I find that these methods are just great for improving your own intuition and getting better at that aspect. That is something that I use my tarot cards for, is just learning to trust my own intuition better. If you're drawn to candles, the best beginner tool is white unscented candles of various sizes. You can use tea light candles, chime candles, pillar candles. They all have different burn times, and white is a color that can be substituted for anything. So rather than having to invest in the rainbow of candles and not knowing if you're going to use or need every single color that comes in there, you can at the beginning just stick to white because white can stand in for absolutely anything. And then you would be able to use those candles in all sorts of different candle magic spells and also use them whenever you're in need of the fire element. I also like salt as a must-have beginner item because salt is very easy to find. You can just go to your grocery store and pick up kitchen salt. There is no need to invest in all of the different types of salt that you could have. You can just start with the salt that you already own in your kitchen. Salt is representative of the earth element. It is ideal for protection and for cleansing, so you get a lot of bang for your buck in just having salt around. And in the same vein, you can also just use dirt and nature. That is a complete freebie. You do not need to go out and purchase dirt at a garden center or anything. You can just go into your backyard and connect with nature that way. And any item that you get from nature, whether that is tree branches, fallen leaves, rocks, those are all associated with the earth element, can be used for all different kinds of spell work related to grounding, fertility, abundance, protection, so many things that you can do with the items that you find in nature. So just getting outside is a great beginner item. So with those very basics out of the way, I wanted to show you a couple of my items in particular. First up is reference books, but I showed you all of my books before. So just having reference books on hand is something that I like to have, but I also have a lot of digital versions of those. So for example, the Scott Cunningham encyclopedias, I have as digital versions. It's just a lot easier to store those and flip through those when they are on my Kindle rather than physically on the bookshelves behind me. But if I were starting over my collection from scratch, I would go and invest in a reference book that has the different correspondences for herbs and crystals, just so I could refer back to those things anytime that I would need them. I love crystals, so I would absolutely go and invest in some crystals, but they don't have to be big or expensive to be effective. This is one of my favorite pieces here. This is a clear quartz, and as you can see, it goes into a point. And this is helpful for so many reasons because of that point. It can direct energy, but clear quartz is another stand-in, like white candles can really be used for anything, for clearing energy, cleansing, drawing down energy, protection. I use clear quartz all over the place, but I like small, tumbled or raw crystals, and those don't cost very much, but it is nice to be able to round out my collection that way. So that is something that I would invest in as a beginner, but not everybody is drawn to crystals. So that is something that's just personal to me. I have a pendulum. So this one is one that I bonded with immediately, just clear there. I love this one. I use it all of the time, and like I mentioned, as a method of divination, I am able to use this one to pull tarot or oracle cards. I use it when I am making herb blends, oil blends, to ask if I have added enough of any certain ingredient. I have found that the pendulum is a very valuable tool. And this one I just went in store to a witchcraft store, and this is the one that called to me and I bonded with immediately, and it has worked for me ever since. Also, in terms of divination, I have a couple of oracle decks, but the only tarot deck that I currently have is this one. It is called the Weaver Tarot by the Threads of Fate, and I love this deck. Again, this is one that I have bonded with, and I have never wanted another one, even though there are other like fun tarot decks, very pop culture-y, that I love that are out there. There's like a Buffy tarot deck, Disney villains. Those all look very interesting to me, but I don't know that I want to bond with another tarot deck when this one like works so well for me. And I know some witches have like a whole collection of 20 different tarot decks, but this is the only one that I have. But of course I have, like you can see, I have the Woodland Wardens Oracle deck behind me. I also have the Halloween Oracle. The Oracle decks are like a different ball game for me than a tarot. But if I did have to start my collection over again, I would go out and find a tarot deck that I could bond with, because tarot is also incredibly useful for just figuring out what's going on day to day, checking in with things, growing your own intuition, and getting insight about the future. I would, of course, go out and purchase lots of candles in a rainbow of colors, because that is something that I know that I use. But like I said, I would start with white if I was starting a collection from scratch and didn't want to invest all of this money right away, but then eventually I would just round out my candle collection. And besides just candles, I would also like a place to burn things. So right back here, you can see that I do have a cauldron. It is on a stand, and it is a smaller one that is fire safe, cast iron, so I can burn things in there. And I like to, I'm not a big fan of incense. I don't do too much with charcoal or burning herbs, but I do like to burn petitions. So anytime I write something down, whether that is a sigil or writing down my intention, I like to burn that to release that out into the universe, and I like a fire safe place to do that. And it also doubles as a fire safe candle holder. So I can put some salt or sand down at the bottom and stick a candle in there, or just stick a tea light in there, and then I know that it is a safe place to burn that candle. And the last thing that I would run out and get right away is some sort of bowl or mug. I currently have quite a few of them that I use, but this is one that I love with the star pattern in there, and that is from Rogan Wolf. And this is a good size. You can tell by my head, my hand, that this is a pretty large one. I like the large size of that, but I find this very useful for coffee magic, stirring intention into drinks. Again, spells and rituals don't have to be complicated. It could just be stirring your coffee every morning. And I also enjoy doing a lot of spell bowls, like money bowls. That will be coming up, I think, in a couple of weeks. I'm going to do a money bowl. Something in this sort of shape, in this size, is an ideal container for that. So those are my favorites and the things that I would have on my beginner list. There are lots of other things that I currently use in my practice. I mean, you can see the besom behind me. I have the wand. I have tons of herbs, but those are not things that I would run out and start with. They really are things that I would pick up later after I've sort of figured out what my path is and what my favorite items are. before I would invest a lot of money in all of these things. But let me know in the comments if you agree, disagree, what would be your must-have items. If you had to start over your collection from scratch, what is one of the first things that you would go out and try to find or purchase? Let me know. But that is everything that I have for this video, and I will see you next week. We'll see if it's on Friday or Sunday. It's a mystery to both of us.